Welcome back to the Exposure History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like, so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. Lazarus and Joannes Baptista Colloredo, born in Genoa in 1617, were among the earliest known conjoined twins. Lazarus appeared healthy, while his parasitic twin, Joannes, protruded from his chest with a small torso, arm, and leg, but showed no independent life. The brothers toured across Europe, appearing in fairs and royal courts, drawing fascination everywhere they went. Lazarus, described as handsome and well-mannered, often concealed Joannes under a cloak when not performing. In one account, he escaped execution by arguing his brother's innocence. The Colloredo twins remain a striking example of humanity's long history of fascination with physical anomalies. Sarah Baartman, born around 1789 in South Africa's Eastern Cape, was taken to Europe in 1810 and exhibited in shows under the name Hottentot Venus. Her curvaceous figure, especially her pronounced steatopygia, was exploited as a spectacle in London and Paris, reflecting the racist and demeaning attitudes of the era. Subjected to scrutiny by audiences and scientists alike, she lived under exploitation until her death in 1815. Even afterward, her remains were displayed in French museums for more than a century. In 2002, she was finally laid to rest in South Africa, symbolizing dignity restored after a lifetime of injustice. Born in 1811 in Siam, Chang and Eng Bunker were conjoined twin brothers joined at the chest by a band of cartilage and fused liver. Discovered as teenagers, they began touring the world in 1829 and became internationally renowned as the original Siamese Twins. They eventually gained independence from their managers, settled in North Carolina, and married two sisters from the same family. Together, they raised 21 children across their respective households, maintaining separate family lives despite their physical connection. After more than 6 decades side by side, Chang passed away in his sleep in 1874, and Eng died just hours later. Their legacy endures in the term Siamese Twins, coined from their name. Charles Sherwood Stratton, best known as General Tom Thumb, was one of the most famous performers of the 19th century. Standing just 3 feet 4 inches tall, he was discovered by P.T. Barnum at age 5 and quickly became an international sensation. Stratton mastered singing, dancing, and comedic impersonations, enchanting audiences across Europe and America. He performed before royalty, including Queen Victoria, and was adored worldwide. In 1863, his lavish miniature wedding to Lavinia Warren captivated the public. Wealthy and celebrated, Stratton lived in luxury until his sudden death at age 45, remembered as Barnum's greatest star. Julia Pastrana lived with an extreme case of hypertrichosis and a gum deformity. Though exhibited under sensationalist names like Ape Woman, she captivated audiences with her talents, singing, dancing, and speaking multiple languages, showing grace and intelligence beyond her appearance. Managed by Theodore Lent, she toured extensively across the U.S., Europe, and Russia. In 1860, she gave birth to a son who inherited her condition but died shortly after. Julia herself died days later from childbirth complications. After death, her embalmed remains were displayed for over a century until their respectful repatriation to Mexico in 2013. Josephine Myrtle Corbin, born in 1868, became famous as the four-legged girl from Texas. She was a dipagous twin, born with 2 pelvises and an extra pair of smaller inner legs. Though she could move them, they were too weak to walk. At 13, Myrtle began performing in sideshows, where her kind nature impressed crowds as much as her unusual anatomy. Her popularity was so great that imitators appeared in rival shows. By 18, she had earned enough to retire, later marrying Dr. James Bicknell. She went on to raise 5 healthy children and lived quietly until her death in 1928. Millie and Christine McKoy, African-American conjoined twins, were born into slavery in North Carolina in 1851. Joined at the lower spine, they became known worldwide as the two-headed Nightingale, for their extraordinary ability to sing in harmony with one another. Sold and exhibited as children, they later gained freedom after the Civil War and took control of their careers. Educated and talented, they performed across the United States and Europe, astonishing royalty and audiences alike. In private life, they described themselves as one soul. Both sisters lived into their 60s, passing away in 1912 within a day of each other. Annie Jones, born in Marion, Virginia, suffered from a condition causing noticeable facial hair even as an infant. At just 9 months old, she was exhibited by P.T. Barnum as the infant Esau, drawing a substantial $150 a week. By age 5, she sported a mustache and chin whiskers, becoming the nation's most celebrated bearded lady. She charmed audiences with her elegance, musical talents, and gracious demeanor. Jones spent her life performing, but also worked tirelessly to humanize sideshow acts, rejecting the demeaning label freak. Married twice, she toured internationally until succumbing to tuberculosis in 1902 at just 37 years of age. William Henry Johnson, known as Zip the Pinhead, was an American sideshow performer believed to have microcephaly. Born in New Jersey to parents who were former slaves, he was discovered by circus scouts and sold to P.T. Barnum in 1860. Barnum styled him with a pointed hair tuft and furry costume, billing him as a missing link, or what is it, who screeched and rattled his cage in the American Museum. Despite the demeaning presentation, Johnson performed for over 60 years, finding warmth in music and kindness off stage. When he died, he was remembered as the Dean of Freaks. Schlitzy, likely born Simon Metz in the Bronx, was a beloved sideshow performer with microcephaly, standing just under 4 feet tall and possessing a pointed skull. Often billed as the last of the Aztecs, or Monkey Girl Boy, with gender misattributed for sensational effect, he wore frilly dresses and spoke in short words or mimicry. Despite cognitive limitations, Schlitzy's cheerful personality and affectionate nature charmed audiences for decades. He appeared in Freaks, feeding fans his memorable grin and clapping hands. He spent his final years in a Los Angeles care facility and remains a celebrated sideshow icon. This vintage group photo shows a collection of circus oddities posed together, a testament to the diversity of performers in 19th and early 20th century sideshows. These ensembles often featured people marketed for their unusual physical traits, such as giants, bearded ladies, dwarf performers, and pinheads. Their group portraits captured the atmosphere of spectacle and the sense of camaraderie in traveling troupes. These performers often relied on one another for support and shared a unique community on the road. While their appearances were judged by audiences, behind the scenes, they formed tight-knit bonds under challenging circumstances. In this striking image, 2 circus performers stand side by side, one enormously heavyset, the other extremely thin. These contrasts were a classic sideshow tactic to highlight extremes in human form for dramatic effect. The fat man and the living skeleton, or thin man, were paired to emphasize disparity and fascination with the human body's limits. Though billed sensationally, these performers were real people whose physical conditions made them valuable attractions in their day. On stage, they drew huge audiences. Off stage, they lived complicated lives marked by both exploitation and unexpected opportunity in a rigid society. Ella Harper, dubbed the Camel Girl, was born in 1873 with a rare bone deformity called congenital genu recurvatum, causing her knees to bend backward. She became a sideshow star in the 1880s, performing a unique gait that resembled a camel's walk, hence her nickname. Harper earned up to $200 a week, a substantial sum for the era. Despite her fame, she left the show business, and her later life remains mostly undocumented. She vanished from records after 1886. Ella Harper's story reminds us how circus fame could be fleeting, especially when billed on physical differences. Frank Lentini was one of the most renowned sideshow performers, born with a partially developed conjoined twin that resulted in a third leg. This extra limb protruded from his pelvis. He couldn't attach it as it was anatomically joined, yet he learned to use it fluidly in performances. Lentini was initially self-conscious before finding confidence and a career in the circus. He could kick a ball and jump rope with all three legs, making it a celebrated act in major circuses. Revered among peers, he enjoyed a long career and is remembered for embracing his condition with grace and skill. Joseph Merrick, infamously known as the Elephant Man, suffered from severe deformities affecting his head and body. He was exhibited in London's freak shows before meeting Dr. Frederick Trevis, who brought him to a hospital where Merrick spent his final years in relative peace. Though exploited early on, Merrick's story eventually became one of empathy, highlighting both the cruelty and compassion within Victorian society. His life challenges audiences to see beyond physical difference and has inspired numerous plays and films that explore identity, dignity, and humanity beyond appearance. Daisy and Violet Hilton, born in 1908, were conjoined twin sisters who began performing as young children in 1912. They became famous entertainers in the 1920s and 1930s, dancing, singing, and playing instruments with grace and coordination as a duo. Their onstage presence and musical talent made them popular, though their lives were marred by legal battles and management exploitation. They appeared in the film Freaks, which featured authentic sideshow performers. The Hilton sisters demonstrate both the artistry and adversity faced by performers whose uniqueness brought them fame and legal struggle alike. Prince Randian was born with tetra amelia syndrome, no arms or legs. He became a beloved sideshow performer, famed for rolling and lighting cigarettes using only his lips. Brought to the United States in 1889, Randian worked for decades in carnivals and circuses, becoming a fixture at Coney Island and other venues. In Freaks, he appeared lighting a cigarette, a simple act that highlighted his dexterity and calm stage presence. Randian spoke multiple languages and was married with children, reinforcing the humanity behind his performance persona. His life is both awe-inspiring and a powerful reminder of human ingenuity. Stefan Biebrowski, known as Lionel the Lion-Faced Man, was born in 1890 in Poland with hypertrichosis, causing long, flowing hair to cover his face and body. His mane-like appearance earned him the nickname Lionel. He was displayed in Europe before joining Barnum and Bailey in the U.S., where he became a star attraction. Lionel could speak multiple languages and often charmed audiences with his wit and intelligence. Though reviled for his beastly appearance, he was gentle, refined, and well-educated. He performed for decades and died in 1932, remembered as one of the most striking bearded performers in circus history. Crau Farini was a Laotian girl born with hypertrichosis, exhibited in Europe and America in the late 19th century. Promoters sensationally claimed she was the missing link between apes and humans, feeding into Victorian obsessions with Darwinism. Crau was displayed at exhibitions and fairs, living much of her life under the care of managers. Despite the degrading marketing, she reportedly enjoyed entertaining and learned English. She performed until her death in 1926 in Brooklyn. Crau's story highlights how pseudoscience and racism often shaped circus narratives, yet she remains one of the most famous hair-covered women of sideshow history. Born Jacob Rubin. Ehrlich in 1906, Jack Earl was one of the tallest men ever to appear in a circus, standing at 7 feet 7 inches. Despite being marketed as a giant, he was more than a spectacle. Earl was also a silent film actor, poet, and photographer. He traveled with the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus in the 1920s, towering over fellow performers. Jack was known for his kind demeanor and artistic side, often sketching and writing between shows. His career demonstrated that sideshows sometimes provided a stage for talent as well as physical difference. He died in 1952. Lucia Zarate, born in Mexico in 1864, holds the Guinness World Record as the smallest woman ever, reaching only 20 inches tall and weighing around 4 pounds as an adult. She suffered from Majewski osteodysplastic primordial dwarfism type 2, a condition that stunted her growth. Displayed in Europe and America, Zarate was billed as a miniature marvel. She was intelligent and enjoyed entertaining, but faced constant spectacle. Tragically, in 1890, Lucia froze to death at age 26 when her train stalled in the mountains during a circus tour. Her short life remains one of the most haunting sideshow stories. Ella and Elvira Snow, known as the Snow Twins, were albino African-American sisters who became stars of the Barnum and Bailey Circus in the early 20th century. Marketed as human curiosities, their white hair, pale skin, and pink eyes fascinated audiences unfamiliar with albinism. The Snow Twins performed alongside other human wonders and were often dressed in matching costumes. Though promoted with exoticized language, they were praised for their musical talent and grace. The sisters represent how circus promoters turned genetic conditions into attractions, but they also carved out fame in an era with few opportunities for women of color. Johnny Eck, born John Eckhart in 1911, became world famous as the half-boy. Born with sacral agenesis, he had a full upper body, but no legs below the waist. Despite this, Johnny was remarkably athletic, performing handstands, acrobatics, and even climbing stairs on his hands. He appeared with Ringling Brothers, Circus, and starred in Todd Browning's Freaks, 1932, where his charisma won audiences over. Offstage, Eck was an accomplished painter, model maker, and even a magician's assistant. He lived a full life in Baltimore, passing away in 1991. Johnny Eck is celebrated as one of sideshow history's most inspiring figures. Zip and Pip, stage names for Elvira and Jenny Lee Snow, were sisters born with microcephaly, leading to small skulls and intellectual disabilities. Promoters billed them as exotic pinheads from a distant land, dressing them in costumes to emphasize their supposed otherworldliness. They performed in circuses and appeared in the film Freaks, 1932, where their playful presence delighted audiences. Despite being exploited for their condition, the sisters found camaraderie among fellow sideshow performers. Their lives highlight how families sometimes presented siblings with similar disabilities as joint acts, turning personal struggles into a livelihood in the carnival world. Priscilla Roman Bajano, nicknamed the Monkey Girl, was born in Puerto Rico with hypertrichosis, causing her face to be covered with hair. She was displayed in sideshows from childhood and became a popular attraction in the United States. Priscilla eventually met Emmett Bajano, the alligator-skinned man, and the two married, becoming known as the world's strangest married couple. Together, they toured carnivals for decades and found love within the circus community. Priscilla retired in the 1960s and lived quietly until her death. Her life demonstrates the resilience of performers who embraced both love and livelihood in the sideshow. Ella Miller was one of the earliest famous tattooed ladies in the American circus. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, tattooing was unusual for women, making her full-body ink both shocking and fascinating to audiences. She toured with Ringling Brothers and other circuses, displaying elaborate tattoos while weaving stories of exotic adventures. The tattooed lady acts challenged Victorian gender norms by flaunting female skin decorated with bold artwork. Miller and her peers paved the way for body art as performance, inspiring generations of performers and changing the perception of tattoos in popular culture. Captain George Constantinos, also called the Tattooed Greek, was one of the most famous tattooed men of the 19th century. Born in Albania, he claimed to have been forcibly tattooed by Burmese tribesmen during captivity. Covered in over 388 tattoos, his body was a living canvas that fascinated circus audiences. Promoted by Barnum, Constantinos earned a fortune exhibiting himself across America and Europe. While his backstory may have been embellished, his tattoos were real and mesmerizing. He died in 1894, remembered as one of the first international stars of tattooed performance art, blending spectacle, myth, and mystery. Grady Stiles Jr. was born with ectrodactyly, a condition that fused his fingers and toes into claw-like shapes, earning him the title Lobster Boy. He became a carnival attraction in childhood, continuing a family tradition of exhibiting the condition. Grady was strong and could walk on his hands, which added to his act's appeal. However, his personal life was dark. He was abusive and eventually convicted of murder. In 1992, he was killed by a hitman hired by his family. His story illustrates the tragic side of circus fame when personal struggles overshadowed performance. Before Daisy and Violet Hilton, earlier conjoined sisters Ella and Eliza made their mark in the 19th century circus world. Though less remembered today, they were part of the growing fascination with double-bodied performers. Exhibited in traveling shows, they wore identical dresses and entertained with music and conversation, charming audiences who were fascinated by their unity and individuality. Their fame paved the way for later sister acts who achieved international recognition. These earlier twins remind us that the fascination with conjoined siblings has long been part of sideshow history, combining medical wonder with public curiosity. Josephine Bois-de-Chêne Clofulia, known as the Bearded Lady of Geneva, gained fame in Europe before touring the U.S. in Barnum's American Museum. She grew a full, flowing beard from childhood, leading doctors to study her unusual condition. Madame Clofulia was elegantly dressed and educated, challenging audiences' expectations of femininity. She famously impersonated Napoleon III in her act, blending humor with spectacle. Though marketed as a curiosity, she was also celebrated for her poise and refinement. Clofulia lived a dignified life as a wife and mother and is remembered as one of the first widely known bearded ladies. Born in Canada in 1855 without arms, Charles Tripp became known as the Armless Wonder. He amazed audiences by performing everyday tasks, writing, painting, and even woodworking, using only his feet. He toured with Barnum and Bailey and other circuses across America. Tripp's skill and determination fascinated audiences, not only for his physical difference, but also for his artistry. He crafted furniture, signed autographs, and displayed remarkable dexterity. His act was inspirational, proving that disability did not mean inability. Charles Tripp performed into the early 1900s and passed away in 1930, leaving behind a legacy of resilience and creativity. Eli Bowen was born without legs, but grew up to become a celebrated circus acrobat. Known as the legless acrobat, he developed incredible upper body strength and dazzled crowds with balancing tricks and tumbling acts. Bowen often performed alongside other well-known sideshow stars and was admired for his daring stunts. He married and had several children, balancing family life with touring. Eli Bowen's fame lasted decades, making him one of the most enduring performers of his kind. His career is a powerful reminder of how physical limitations can be transformed into feats of extraordinary skill. Minnie Woolsey, billed as Cuckoo the Bird Girl, was a sideshow performer born with Virchow-Seckel syndrome, which caused dwarfism and distinct facial features. She often performed in a bird costume, dancing energetically while squawking, much to the amusement of audiences. Minnie achieved screen immortality with her appearance in Freaks, 1932, where she donned a feathered outfit and flapped her arms. Despite being marketed as a bird girl, Minnie was known for her good humor and resilience. Her unique act earned her a lasting place in circus lore, remembered as one of the most eccentric sideshow stars. George and Willie Muse, born in Virginia in the late 1800s, were African-American albino twins exhibited as Echo and Eco in American sideshows. They were kidnapped as children and forced into performing, marketed as exotic missing links, or cannibals from Ecuador. Despite years of exploitation, they eventually reunited with their mother, who fought for their freedom. Remarkably, the Muse brothers later returned to show business on their own terms, becoming popular performers into the 1960s. Their story blends tragedy with resilience, showing how family bonds and personal agency could overcome exploitation in the harsh carnival world. Known as Myrtle the Elephant-Skinned Girl, this performer was exhibited in the early 20th century with severe elephantiasis, a condition causing massive swelling and thickening of the skin. Audiences were both horrified and fascinated by her appearance, which promoters exaggerated with lurid posters. While her real name is less documented, Myrtle became a fixture of sideshow exhibitions, symbolizing the era's obsession with extreme medical conditions. Though marketed cruelly, she represented how individuals with debilitating illnesses often found financial survival through circus performance. Her act underscores the blend of exploitation and necessity that defined many sideshow careers. Isaac Wooten, billed as the Skeleton Man, was another sideshow performer famed for extreme thinness. Like Isaac Sprague before him, Wooten suffered from a wasting condition that made his body appear skeletal. Exhibited in the early 20th century, he was often paired with fat ladies to highlight contrasts in body type, a common showman's tactic. Wooten traveled with American carnivals, posing for posters that emphasized his gaunt frame. Though details of his private life are scarce, his act reflects the public's enduring fascination with extremes in human size, as well as the sideshow's ability to turn suffering into spectacle. Lady Olga Roderick, born Jane Barnell in 1871, was a bearded lady who became one of the best-known circus performers of the early 20th century. With a flowing beard over a foot long, she toured with major circuses, including Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. Olga also appeared in the film Freaks, 1932, where she stood proudly among other real-life performers. Offstage, she was outspoken about the dignity of sideshow artists, insisting that their uniqueness should be respected rather than mocked. Lady Olga performed well into her 60s and is remembered as a powerful symbol of individuality. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on anything.